Welcome back, whiners. This is Amanda Lopez with our Wine About Data podcast. And today I'm joined by a special guest, Miss Cathy Gatchel. Cathy, please introduce who you are and your background on this topic.
Well, first, thanks for having me. Really excited to be on this podcast because big fan of everything that you do, Amanda. Also a big fan of wine. So, it's all good.
Winning there.
That's right. My name's Cathy Gatchel. I've been working at the Honeywell Foundation, also known as Honeywell Arts and Entertainment, for nearly 20 years.
Wild.
My official title is Chief Development Officer. So primary role has to do with fund development, although I do oversee our education program and our arts programming, as both of those programs really rely on funding for their survival. So kind of all ties together. And then I had spent 10 years prior fundraising for what was then Manchester College. It's now Manchester University. So many, many years in the world of fundraising.
Yes. So as you can guess, listeners, we invited Cathy to come and talk to us about all things fundraising. You are a professional fundraiser and have worlds and gobs of experience. So I'm so excited to pick your brain and share all of these tidbits today. And Cathy and I, we've had the fortune of being able to be on several boards together here in the community. I would think you would agree, living in a small town, that you're often tapped to be in a lot of boards. And so I really appreciated the opportunity to collaborate with you.
Likewise. And that's what is great. I mean, if anyone who's out there who's like, why would I want to live in a small town? There's so many wonderful ways that you can contribute. And that's, like you said, you get tapped to do many things. And so our paths keep crossing because we keep being on boards together.
I love that. Yep. Big plug there for our small town. And in our show notes, we're going to clip some information about Wabash in case you want to come and visit us. But Cathy, before we could go off on that whole rabbit trail about why you should live in a small town, when I invited you to join on the episode, you said that you like a dry white. So we have this Josh wine, and it's a blend of a Sauvignon Blanc and a Pinot Grigio.
Perfect.
So let's try it. And it's a nice, beautiful, sunny day today. So I feel like, cheers.
Cheers.
Crisp.
Very nice.
Yeah, not too sweet. Like that could go down real easily.
Probably too easily for a Friday afternoon.
Well, it is a Friday afternoon. But winers, whatever you choose to drink with us today, we're happy, whether that's a glass of wine or something else. So let's talk about all things data as it relates to fundraising. And how do you use data to help raise the goals? Because we know at the end of the day, all nonprofits have to bring in money, right? And so data can be a critical resource. I like to say it can be your secret weapon.
It's embedded in everything. If you don't have good, clean data, it's going to be really hard to be successful. And so everything that you do, from your planning, your goals, your strategies, tactics, it all has to be rooted in data. And so that's just absolutely central and has been for the entirety of my career, and I'm sure will continue to be. So
right. What do you think are some of the challenges and pitfalls that nonprofits run into when it comes to data with fundraising?
I'd say systems, having a good, clean organization system for many, and most people do utilize a CRM, a customer relationship management system, but not everyone does. And I think sometimes they get intimidated by it, or they think it's too expensive.
Right.
And there's so many wonderful low cost options now. And it's absolutely vital, because if you're still using Excel spreadsheets, you're at a disadvantage and you're not able to track the information you need to track. You can't provide the appropriate follow-ups that you need to do. You can't make sure that you're doing all the acknowledgments that you need to. Just so many ways that it can be your best friend. And so absolutely, that's kind of the number one thing. I know when on a couple of the boards that we've served on, that's been the very first thing.
We've been working on that. There isn't a good system in place, right? So then when we go to try to raise money for the board, it makes it that much more difficult to do that. And I would say that in the last several years, there's been a whole array of new systems that have come out that I think are a lot more affordable for a smaller nonprofit. Intuitive,
easier to
handle, to navigate.
Because I've been around fundraising a long time. I remember when all the systems were expensive and onerous, and you needed to have an IT person just to figure it out. And that's just not the case anymore. So don't be intimidated by it. Jump right in and find a system that works for you.
Yeah, that's great. And what do you think about like when you are setting up the system? What are some of those key fields? Because as we know, when you talk about your data has to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's important data components that you should be entering in that CRM, that donor contact management system?
Well, I know it sounds silly, like it would be something as simple as just making sure you have all the right contact information,
Yeah.
but definitely that, and making sure
Right.
it's up to date with your emails and the mobile phones in addition to someone's business phone, and just what are the multiple ways that you want to contact somebody. And then from there, the other big piece is the cycle of giving, to know, like, is
Yes.
this a prospect, and are they in the discovery phase? Are they
Right.
a current prospect? Are you
Mm-hmm.
cultivating them? Are
Mm-hmm.
they ready for a solicitation? Have you moved into that phase?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you in more of a stewardship phase? And so having those donor cultivation fields
Right.
set up so that you can track and be able to know exactly where someone is in their
Yeah.
journey is definitely one of the key fields you want to have.
Mm-hmm. I think too, along with that, identifying kind of where that donor is in their stage of
Mm-hmm.
relationship with you, but also I'm curious, how do you track giving levels? And do
Mm-hmm.
you do anything different with that kind of
Absolutely.
information?
And some systems are really good about assigning benefits to those
Mm,
giving levels. So if you've established like a donor society or something like that, and you
yeah,
know that donors at $200, get X, Y, and Z, many times a lot of those systems will be able to match that up so that they automatically can kind of remind you, like, hey, this person is
ready
at
for
this
this
level,
thing.
and so now you need to deliver this benefit. And so yes, that is another great way to shortcut the system, and then you don't have to be like, oh, I forgot I had to go do this, and it's
Right,
already baked in the system for
right.
you to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I think, you're having all these conversations, you're meeting with all these people. It's hard to keep track of
Mm-hmm.
everything that is going on. And especially if you're a part of a team. And at
Mm-hmm.
Honeywell Center, you do have a team. And so
Mm-hmm.
there are other people working there. But even for a smaller nonprofit,
Absolutely.
you can have a board. And so to keep track of where everybody is in the process, having that
Mm-hmm.
system is
A
clutch.
system of truth,
System of
having
truth.
that place
Yeah.
that where like, this is what it is. This isn't like, oh, I remember this somewhere. I got to go find a note, or like,
Yeah.
that's your system of truth, and you need to have that. And
Hmm.
that again makes all the difference as you make your plans and you move forward.
Sure. And, as again, like changes have happened around how do individuals give and how do different generations like to give, now there's this online giving option,
Mm-hmm.
and that can provide a whole other
Mm-hmm.
suite of data and information.
Mm-hmm.
What have you done to maybe leverage those resources
Mm-hmm.
that are available to donate online on a website or on your social media or
You
other
know, the
platforms?
key that I've, and every place is finding, is just that you have to be everywhere. You can't have one strategy. You can't just
Yep.
be like, well, we send out one mailer a year and that's what we do. You have to have that online strategy.
Yeah.
You have to have a social media strategy. You have to
Hmm.
have an email strategy. And then beyond that, you have to make sure that as you have your online strategy and you're able to like push out to be like, make a gift online, click this button, make it
Sure.
simple. Make sure that your ways to give is simple.
Yes.
Make sure that you have gift processing in place to
Mm,
accept Apple Pay or Google Pay in addition to just your credit cards. And so, there's a lot of technology now involved.
yes.
It's, of course, in the end, it's about your case for support and making sure that you provide that opportunity for
Compelling
people to
message.
give. But
Hmm.
you also need to make sure that you know the technology so that you can take advantage of all of those opportunities as well.
Yeah. We're kind of like tapping into that a little bit about how technology has changed and systems have changed. But what have been some other trends that you've seen in giving and fundraising for nonprofits?
Well, one of the new trends that I'm
Yeah.
tracking the most is AI, and
Mm,
seeing how this might impact, or not might, will
yeah,
impact
it's here.
fundraising. And there's a lot of fear around it, but I
Mm,
actually have seen a lot of school of thought about how it will unlock the ability to be more effective in fundraising,
yeah.
because it will allow you to get out from behind your desk so that,
Hmm.
some of the mundane tasks that you've had to do, like, especially if you're a small shop and you may have
Right.
to do, oh, I have to do the minutes, and we have to do, all these different like kind of administrative work.
Right.
How can some of that administrative work be alleviated so that instead you can be out in front of your donors
Yep.
and be able to have those conversations, because that's something AI can't do.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and it's like, how do you expand your time, right? And it's so much
Hmm.
more valuable for you to have that time with FaceTime with potential donors and
Right.
prospects, right? And so I think, again, any change can be fearful,
Hmm.
of trying to learn it. I know I'm still figuring it out. My kids at home are, chat GPTing all the time. And
Exactly. It is a little, I mean, and sometimes it can feel overwhelming, but
right.
it's like lean into the areas where it really makes sense for you. And then again, if you can find those efficiencies so that you can make one more phone call call or have one more meeting, one more lunch. That in the end makes such a difference in your fundraising goals.
Yes. So we've been talking a lot about the challenges, the pain points nonprofit have,
Mm-hmm.
but also some solutions. So I'm wondering, what are some other great, best practices or tips that you find helpful?
Well, as we're getting into the last quarter of the year,
Yes.
making sure that you're present, just make sure that you're telling your story, that you're out there, and again, taking advantage of all those communication channels that we
Right.
talked about, that you can't just rely on one source. It's not
Yes.
just about sending a direct mailing out. I mean, that used to be the thing, back,
Just
and
one.
it still is for lots of places. And I don't discount it. It's still a
Absolutely.
highly effective way to do fundraising,
Right.
but you just can't rely on one source anymore.
Yep.
You have to be in multiple areas. And again, sometimes that can feel overwhelming, but you just really have to kind of lean into it and embrace it, because it can unlock a lot of new opportunities for you as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we are living in the information age, which at
Mm-hmm.
times can be overwhelming because there's constantly information being thrown at us. But if you're not in those spots, then we're missing those
Mm-hmm.
audiences who could potentially learn about,
Mm-hmm.
your incredible cause and
Mm-hmm.
how they might want to partner and support you because it aligns with their values.
Absolutely. It's, as I said, it's both a tremendous opportunity, obviously a challenge as well. But if you just really look at it as an opportunity, it can really provide you some great rewards.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, one of the things you mentioned, it's end of the year giving. I think that's going to be another episode we're going to talk about soon and dig really into that. But it also can be a great time going back to that contact list of auditing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy to just kind of let that go on autopilot. And so to go back to your contact list and make sure you've got updated addresses,
Mm-hmm.
emails, people move and change jobs. And so if you are planning to do a big mailer
Mm-hmm.
or do some emails or whatever, all those different touch points, making sure that data is clean, up to date.
Absolutely, because there's nothing worse than if you send
I know.
erroneous information out. And so that's when, you think about the CRM and how important it is, because it's things like if you have an old Excel spreadsheet,
Right.
you may have that old information that has someone's deceased spouse still listed,
Yeah, and how-
there's nothing worse than if you do a mail merge and you accidentally put something in there that, while was not the case, that still came out that way. And so
Right.
that's where having that system of truth is imperative.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I wonder if you could share a case example of, how you've been able to use and unlock the power of data to reach a fundraising goal,
Mm-hmm.
that you had at Honeywell. And then maybe also talk a little bit more about what Honeywell does in the community.
Well, that's a lot to
I
try to do
know.
it at once. So I'll talk a little bit about our Eagles Theater campaign renovation that we completed several years ago. But it was pretty monumental for our community. And it kind
Absolutely.
of touches on kind of what Honeywell does for our community. We're a
Yep.
pretty unique organization that, we're founded by someone who was a really, wealthy industrialist who decided, hey, Wabash is a small town, but they deserve the best. And so why not provide them all the different things that you can find in a large community? And so we take that same spirit and apply it in a variety of ways. And one of the most recent ways we were able to do that was with the Eagles Theater campaign. The Eagles Theater was an old, more than 100-year-old building that was
Yeah.
primarily a movie theater.
Mhm.
Most of us remember going there as kids, but over years and years it was neglected, and most of it was in very rough shape.
Very rough.
And we had an opportunity for a full-scale renovation, and we were on a tight timeline because we had received a grant to kind of kick it off, which kind of gave us a tiny little bit to get there, but no way to get to the full
scale
to
needed.
the finish line. We ended up, it was a $13 million campaign.
Huge.
And so we raised about $12 million in 12 months. And for a
So
town our
impressive.
size is pretty darn
Unheard of.
amazing.
Yep.
But it was just one of those campaigns that, in addition to having all those emotional points we just talked about, there was a lot of data in the case for support, because
great.
it was about, how do we create something that on the other side is creating the outcomes that makes our community a better community, a more livable community,
Right.
a community that has more events, more opportunities. And
Right.
it's that type of visualization that you can see, that's like you're starting here, but you're going here, that
Yes.
creates this outcome that people can see and then want to be a part of. So it's, you're using that data in a kind of a different way of like, well, here's what it looks like now, and here's the minimal types of
Right.
opportunities, and here's the number of events that we have. And then on the other side, we have this other scene that is much more plentiful.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And I love just that power of data storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too, I'm sure, the framing of it was around a lot of people lock you into you're an arts and performing organization. And so you serve a specific need, but then to frame that as also you're an economic engine
Yes.
for a small community.
Mm-hmm.
At Honeywell Center, 80% of people who come to shows are out of county.
Right.
So you're bringing in all these new visitors to the community who are going to shop here and eat here. And
that's key for probably lots of organizations to talk about your economic impact
and value.
And for sure, arts and culture has really started to talk about that because
100%.
a lot of even governmental agencies are talking about, well, without a good arts and culture plan, you don't really have a good economic development plan because people don't just want to go to work and go home and do nothing else. Mm-hmm. They want to be able to live. They want to be able to have that livability. And that's the key to really create a vibrant community.
Absolutely.
And so, yes, leaning into that story is another great opportunity.
Yeah, I love that example. Well, congratulations on that really successful campaign. And we absolutely love that new space and building. Mm-hmm. And we'll include information about the Eagles Theater in our show notes. So if anybody wants to come in the area and check it out and all the great performances they have there. And there's a beautiful ballroom that's been restored. Mm-hmm. So it's really exciting. But I think my takeaway of hearing that story is really about the power of having relationships with key partners in the community and how you frame the message of the opportunity to do that and building momentum. When you get a grant that creates this urgency, can help really rally people to join your cause. Well, Cathy, we have covered a lot, and I feel like we could keep going.
I would love to. but we have wine to drink.
But we have wine to drink, and we need to wrap this up for our listeners so we don't go on forever. So what would be, one good tip, a takeaway that you would say, hey, just start here?
The CRM. It's all about that system. You have to have that's your building block for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and like we talked about, there's a whole range of options. And actually in our show notes, we have a blog that we listed out some different options to rank, what are some CRMs and donor softwares that are available for nonprofits. So we can share that with you so you can get started. Well, I'm so thankful that you've joined me today.
Well, thanks for having me.
I know this will just be the first of many conversations. So just a couple of key takeaways. Definitely check out our show notes where we'll link all the great information and some tips and resources we talked about, as well as how you can get in touch with Transform Consulting Group and continue to follow us on our data journey of helping you see the value and impact of your data. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast wherever you can find it on your favorite podcast app. And please give us a 5-star rating. Well, thank you, Cathy. Cheers to you and to all of our great winers out there.
Cheers.